UFL fans, spring football fans. It's Friday. That means it is football day already. First, let's talk about the TV ratings from Week 5, the Friday night game between Memphis and Birmingham. 467,000 people. Not exactly great. And they missed, unfortunately, the first overtime game in UFL history. The second game, St. Louis, Michigan, which I'm calling the best game of the year so far. 615,000 people. Not bad, not great either. DC Arlington, who played the highest scoring game of the year and the biggest comeback ever in UFL history. 545,000 people. Not very encouraging. And of course, Houston, San Antonio on ESPN, 391,000 people. That game was terrible anyway. Overall, the the ratings seemed to be down from the week before and the week before that. It's a shame because I thought last week 3 of the 4 games was the best football of the week. And it was a rough week for viewership, if you ask me. And they had the best game. So let's see what they do this weekend. And speaking of this weekend, let's talk about the game. Let's talk about plays of the week from Week 5. Congratulations to cornerback Eugene Harris again from the Renegades. Second week in a row, he is the defensive player of the week. 2 interceptions for him. One that really thought was did swing the momentum towards the Renegades, but unfortunately for him, his team ended up losing. 6 tackles, 1 for a loss, and a big break of a pass. So congratulations to Eugene Harris for the second week in a row winning the Defensive Player of the Week. Special Teams Player of the Week, and of course, had to be Isaiah Henny of Memphis. The kick 6 188-yard field goal. What pissed me off about this is it wasn't even on the ESPN top 10 plays of the day. Hello, ESPN, you're not doing the league a favor. You're not doing your product a favor either. He does lead his team both in punt return yards and kickoff return yards. And so he was your special teams player of the week. And of course, the offensive player of the week was quarterback Dressel Wynn of the Memphis Showboats, finally getting his team a win. Of course, the former Volunteer made his debut for the team on the other side of the state against the Birmingham Stallions, and he was 17-29 for 235 yards and a touchdown. So congratulations to him. All right, let's talk Week 6 action. We're over halfway now. Can you believe this already? And what is arguably the game of the week this week, if you ask me, the Arlington Renegades, 3-2, going to the Battle Dome to take on the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now, you can easily say the Renegades could be 5-0. They blew last week's game. I'm sorry. They should be at least 4-1 because they really gave that game against Birmingham away. St. Louis looked good last week against their Midwest rival, the Michigan Panthers. They seem for at least for 1 week to get rid of their offensive line players. And hold on. Yeah, I'm on my way. Their offensive line roles were non-existent against that really good team defensive from Michigan. So we have what I consider one of the better rivalries in the UFL league. Of course, this dates back to the 2020 year. The Battlehawks are riding high over the game of the year, if you ask me, beating the Michigan Panthers. And Hakeem Butler, 67-yard pass for a touchdown. That was an exciting game. Who I like in this game? Oof. Max Duggan looked really good last week. He looked like the player who was almost a Heisman Trophy winner. I am going with the Arlington Renegades in this one to win a squeaker. This should be a fun game. I'm going 25-20 Renegades, but this should be a fun game. Now the Saturday game at noon, Memphis and Houston on ABC. This is a rematch where Houston got their first win. This should be a good game, I think, this time for the right reasons. Both teams are playing much better. Dress a win. Both teams seem to solve their quarterback issues right now, which is good for them and good for the league, because for a while these teams were just terrible to look at. I'm sorry, they were. Roughnecks dominated their crosstown rival, the Browns, last week. I mean, it was by far their greatest win probably since the 2020 season. That's how impressive it was last week. As for the Showboats upsetting the Stallions, I think this is going to be a fun game, but I think the Roughnecks are going to be 3-3. Call it 23-18 Roughnecks. Now we have a Sunday doubleheader. You can make a case this could be the game of the week. The DC Defenders and the Michigan Panthers. DC coming off their big win, the big comeback win against the Arlington Renegades. And the Michigan Panthers coming off a heartbreaking loss against the St. Louis Battlehawks. I am taking the DC Defenders. I may be a little bit biased, but they are finding ways to win. The only thing, like last week, was the Defenders' defense was exposed, but it seems like Bob Stoops knows how to play against those Greg and Blake Williams defenses. He's done a good job. This will be a good game. This will be another one-score game. I am taking the Defenders. I'm going 26-22. And finally, the last game of the week, the Brahmas and the Stallions. I know the Brahmas are looking bad, but the Stallions are still not very impressive in my opinion. This is the Sunday game at Fox at 4 o'clock. I will take the Stallions in this one. I like the Stallions to win this game because they're still the champions. And I'm sorry, San Antonio. Every time you think San Antonio's going to turn around, they don't. So they may win this week. Who knows? I am taking the Stallions. I think this would be the one boring game, possibly one boring game on the schedule. I'm going 23-10 Birmingham. So there you go. There is your picks for week 6, your ratings for week 5, and your players of the week. Let me know what you think, and for the love of football, we'll talk to you later.